Hey, Aubrey, I have a question for you here. Actually,
All
really, we
right.
should ask our listeners this question, don't you think?
Yes, actually, but go ahead and you can stand in for our listeners and ask me.
Okay. Mm. So, I'll ask you about what you say. So, do you think there's anything that you say a lot on the podcast? Any language habits?
Yes, absolutely. And I have had students point this out to me, listeners point this out to me. And I notice it
Oh.
when I look through the transcripts too, when we're
Ah.
creating the transcripts, I say right a lot. They'll be like, oh, that was really interesting, right? I end a lot of sentences with right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think that's right.
Um,
I do something similar. But I think I say like, "Right?" Like I don't even say the word.
you're just kind
I
of like,
say
eh?
something really weird.
Yes, and there's a reason we say this a lot. A lot of native speakers say right, and there are some other phrases like this. We got a really good question about this from a listener, and so this is going to be interesting today.
I love language habits. It's fascinating. Michelle and I were talking earlier in the week, and we thought that would be really cool this year to celebrate our 10th anniversary to make T-shirts that each of us has a saying, something we say all the time on the show, and that we have those on a T-shirt. That would be super
Michelle's would be
fun.
light, mine would be right.
Michelle's Michelle's would be, "I feel funny." So you but because yeah, you
Oh,
need to
that's
record
good
with Michelle
too.
sometimes. So she says a lot, "I feel funny," or "Do you
Yes.
feel funny?" Anyways, I think it would be
Oh, that's
hilarious.
funny. That would be good. I'd wear
So
that shirt. I
anyways,
feel funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So guys, go ahead and hit follow on All Ears English because we believe in connection, not perfection. And if you believe in that, then this is our value. We show you how to use English, not just to get the right grammar, but to connect. Human connection at work, in your life. That's what we want. And so that's what we show you how to do. Hit follow on the show.
Yes,
Aubrey,
absolutely.
would you read the question from Rio?
Yes. Yes, this is from Rio in Japan. Thank you guys for podcasting about awesome phrases and cool cultural differences. I wanted to ask you about the difference between don't you and right. I think I know how to use these words, like you have a license, do you? Or it's cool, right? Something like that. But are there any specific situations where native speakers would prefer to use one or the other? Thank you, Rio. Such a great
Mm.
question.
Yeah, really good question. Oh my gosh. So, where do we start today? We're going to answer Rio's question. And where should we go today for this?
Yeah, so we use both of these a lot, right? And don't you, to ask people about themselves, to get them to give their opinions or to kind of see if they agree, but they're sort of fillers often, right? It's just kind of
Mhm. You did it.
thrown
You
into
just did it right there.
conversation. Yeah, exactly. I do it all the time. It's great for connection. It keeps you from having these sort of awkward silences and pauses. There are a lot of
Mhm.
fillers like this in English, so it's going to happen. Don't let it keep you from connecting, being worried about making fillers like this.
Oh my gosh, and we're as human beings in conversation, we are looking for agreement, whether we're
Mhm.
conscious of it or not, right? It's evolutionary. I mean, it's
You just did it.
how we stayed alive historically, right?
Totally.
Yes, I'm saying it a
It's
lot. I'm saying it a lot. It's interesting when I lived in Japan, I heard a lot of this, and as far as I understand, the equivalent is desu ne or ne at the end of the sentence. And
mm.
I was just watching the movie on my flight back from Portugal, Lost in Translation. Have you seen it?
Yes, it's been a long time, but I
Yeah.
remember enjoying it.
Yeah, and I remembered how common, it was to hear "ne" at the end of sentences in Japanese, and so we do this across many languages. Have you seen this
Absolutely.
in any languages you've studied?
Yes, when I lived in Quebec, I had learned French in Belgium and France, and then in Quebec, they have sort of their own regional dialect of
Mhm.
French, and they add "le" at the end. So it's like, "Tu sais le," it means like, "You know, right?" And
Uh,
you won't hear it in France or Belgium, but all over in Quebec, and it's sort of like the "a" in Canada, like, "Take off,
oh,
eh?" Right? They
interesting.
add the "a."
Huh. I wonder if there was an influence yeah, if they're mirroring "a," but just in French, that's fascinating.
Right?
Whereas
It's
in Europe, you don't hear that as much. That's
Yeah,
really
I think
interesting.
there are quite a few things in the sort of Quebecois that it's coming from how Canadians speak because most of them are fluent in English and French, so it
Yeah.
gets sort of blended. It's really fascinating.
That is fascinating. I love that. All right, so let's dig into it then. Where can
Yeah,
we
let's
start?
start with
Mhm.
right, but first we wanna make sure you guys don't miss episode 2114. Scroll up if you missed this. Lindsay and Michelle recorded this about the phrase "wouldn't be caught dead" and a few others like that. It was called "How to Use a Strong Idiom to Share Your Identity in English." That was a
Right.
fantastic episode. I wanna make sure nobody missed it.
Oh, yeah, that was fun, and we have to be able to say what we like to do, what we wouldn't be caught dead doing, so check that out, guys. So
This is
number
definitely
1.
something you'd add
Mhm.
right at the end too, right? I wouldn't be
Yeah.
caught dead doing that, right? You wouldn't be caught dead,
You could
right?
really add it to anything. I mean, that's
I know.
why that's why we're talking about this today and answering your
Totally.
guys' question. It's everywhere. So starting with right?
Yes. Yeah. So this is when you're asking a question and you know the answer, like we said, it's conversational. Often it's
Mhm.
used to sort of pass the floor to someone. So that's why we say it a lot podcasting, because I've said something and I'm sort of like handing the floor, it over to Lindsay. And that's a way that I often do it.
That's actually kind of interesting, an interesting point because, sometimes we're not face to face. And I wonder if we would use right less if we were face to face, that we just see the cues more easily and I would know you're about to
Definitely.
speak. Yeah,
I know that I
probably.
say it a lot less in casual conversation than I
Yeah.
do podcasting. So I pulled
Yeah.
these out of the transcripts, a couple that Lindsay said to Michelle, "You
Mhm.
took your son to Paris, right?" And then you
Mhm.
said, "Oh, yeah, it's super common to meet online nowadays, right?" And this both of
Right.
those, you were sort of passing the conversation back to Michelle. And then there's
Yes.
one that I said. You wanna share that
And you
one?
said, "This grammar is a little tricky, right?" Looking for agreement there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're
Huh.
sort of looking for agreement and also letting them know, like, "I've finished what I'm gonna say, you take over."
Right. So some of this is a tactic of podcasting online and actually not totally inapplicable to our listeners, web conferences, right?
Absolutely.
Professional meetings if you work remotely. This is gonna be
Yeah,
key.
phone
Phone
calls.
calls,
Yeah.
huge. So listen in today. Don't think, "Oh, this is just for podcasters." No, no, no. This is English for business, actually. Yeah.
Yes, and then we use this a second way to make a statement agreeing. So we'll show this in a little mini role play here. Lindsay, start us
Okay.
out.
Ice cream is the best.
Right?
Okay.
So this, instead of adding it to what I'm saying, it's just a statement agreeing with emphasis.
Yeah, that one deserves its own episode. That's kind of a trendy thing that people have been saying in the last few years, right?
Or you'll say, "I know, right?"
I know, right? I know. I don't say that very much, but people do say it. It's very trendy. It might be
I
going out
totally
now. I feel like
do.
I haven't heard it lately, but in the last
Maybe.
maybe 4 or 5 years, yes, 100% natives definitely say this, at least in the US.
Yes, for sure. I think it was super trendy, and I probably should stop saying it if it's going out.
I don't know. No, I'm just saying that. I was just thinking because I
I
haven't
don't
heard it
know.
lately, but maybe I
Yeah.
just haven't talked to anyone lately. I don't know.
No.
All right. All right, here we go, Aubrey. Let's move into the next one. What's next?
Yes. So this next one is don't you. We use it two different ways. First is to say something about yourself and sort of ask if someone agrees when you expect them to say yes. So give us an example, Lindsay.
Okay. I love ice cream, don't you?
Yes. Or I love this weather, don't you? And really, you're just making a statement. I love this weather and sort of opening the conversation to them because you're expecting them to say yes.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, a little maybe I use this probably. Well, what do you think? Do you use this sometimes? Don't you? Don't you? Like looking for agreement? Would you say?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
do say this
Yeah.
sometimes. I hear it in conversations, right? If you just maybe a way to start a conversation, if you run into
Yeah.
someone, say like,
Yeah.
"I love this type of weather, don't you?" Like, I feel is very natural.
Really natural. And then this next one is really interesting because the intonation is going to switch. Okay. So
Yes,
listen for the intonation. Here in this second example, we're making an assumption about someone else. So, Aubrey, you exercise a lot, don't you?
exactly. Or, "You like chocolate, don't you?" So this
So,
is where
yeah.
we don't know. We don't know if the answer is yes, right? We're making an assumption. We think it's probably true. Maybe we heard this, but we're
Mhm.
not sure. And the intonation is very different.
Yeah. Let's go back and actually compare ice cream and exercise and show our listeners the intonation change again. So,
Love it.
again, when it's something about yourself, you're asking for to see if they agree. Hey, Aubrey, I love ice cream. Don't you? Right?
Yeah, or I love this weather, don't you? You can
Hmm.
see how it's sort of the intonation is assumption. Like I'm assuming you're gonna say, "Of course,
Right.
everyone loves this weather."
Right. Versus now we're making an assumption about someone else and we're just kind of confirming. Right. So,
Confirming
Aubrey,
what
you
we assume.
exercise. Sorry, say that again. One
I
more time.
said, yeah, confirming what we assume to be true.
Confirming what we assume. So, for example, you exercise a lot, don't you? Right? Not
Exactly.
don't you, it's don't you. So the emphasis is on don't.
Exactly, yes, and it really changes the whole meaning depending on that little bit of intonation change, so this is really vital.
Interesting.
Or, "You like chocolate, don't you?" It's the intonation
Mm,
is, I feel like I remember this about you." Is that accurate?
right. Versus, I like chocolate, don't you?
Right.
So
The
hopefully we're
emphasis
making
either
this
on
clear.
"don't" or on "you."
Yeah, really interesting. So, guys, if you didn't quite catch that, or if you need a review on that, go back at the end of today's episode and listen again because it's kind of important, actually, quite important to do the correct emphasis on each of those examples. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's show this again in a role play here. So you and I
Okay.
just ran into each other at a grocery store in this role play. Lindsay, you wanna
Hmm.
start us out?
Okay. Here we go. Hey, you live close to here, right?
"Yes, just up the street. I love this store, don't you?"
Oh yeah, they have the best sales here.
Right? I
There it
know,
is.
right?
There it is, there it is, I love it. I don't know if it's out of style. You have to ask your kids
Who
because I feel
knows?
like kids, teenagers are the ones who know what's in style and what's not, right?
It's true. They haven't started telling me, "Mom, stop saying that," so
Oh,
I'm
no, that
okay, I
hasn't
think.
started yet? Okay,
No.
interesting, interesting. Um, so first I said, "You live close to here, right?" Right? Okay, straightforward.
Yeah. Yep, and this it's similar, the intonation for "right" and "don't you" there, because you could definitely say, like, "You live close to here, don't you?" Like, you're pretty sure that's right, right? So the
Mhm, mhm.
intonation's interesting here.
Right,
And then I just said, "Yes, just up the street." And this is something that this is more like a general assumption, like, everybody loves this store. "I love
right.
this store, don't you?"
Looking
It would
for that
almost be
agreement.
weird for you to be like, "No, I hate this store." You're just
Yeah,
even
so
if you hate the store, you would be like, "Yeah, sure."
yeah, yeah, it's good, it's good. Uh,
Yeah,
totally, and this is usually about preferences, right? Things
totally.
again, that's the ice cream example. I love chocolate ice cream, don't you? Right?
Mhm.
And then I said, "Oh, yeah, they have the best sales here."
And I just finished with that, "right?" Or you could say, "I know, right?" And it's just a fun way to agree with emphasis.
It's just fun. It's fun and trendy. Yeah, I like that. This has been a good episode. We talked about intonation, we talked about vocabulary, we talked about culture a little bit. What's a takeaway?
Yeah, we use both of these phrases to ask people about themselves and their opinions. So, this is such a great connection skill because this is how you get deeper with people, right? Ask about them,
Mhm.
ask if they like something that you like. And it's always a great jumping off point for a conversation.
Exactly, curiosity. You should be curious about the people you're getting to know. Do they like ice cream? Do they like that store? Get to know, dig in, and enjoy that connection. Yeah, good
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely. Oh, this is really fun.
All
I'll
right,
probably
have
start
a
noticing even more now when I read the transcription,
oh
I
yeah.
see my rights.
No question, no question. Have a good day, Aubrey. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.